So open your Excel and follow me as we go through this. So just to recap what you have already done up to this point, you have been able to formulate the following linear programming problem. Zmax equals to 40x1. And I want you to write it somewhere in your book, plus 50x2. And this is subject to one x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal to 40. This is what you formulated last time. This is the labor constraint. Now 4x1 plus 3x2 less or equal to 120, which is a null constraint. And then you have your non-negativity constraint as shown here. Do you all remember this model for the Farm Ghana Limited?
Yes, sir. Please, we do.
Yes, please.
Good. You solve this model in graphical approach. And today we want to look at it in Excel. That is why I said you should open your Excel. I'm sure by now, most of you have opened. I don't expect everyone to follow my guidance by opening the Excel. I just want 20 of you who have done that, and I'll be working with that. So raise your hand using the icon if you have opened your Excel. As long as the number is 20, I'm good to go. Raise your hand if you have opened your Excel. Good. So right now, as it stands, I have more than 23, so that's fine. You can lower your hands down and let's begin. Whilst your Excel is showing like mine is showing, the first thing you want to do is to write Farm Ghana Limited, FMGL, on the cell A1. Do that quickly. Cell A1. Normally, those who don't follow me quickly, they will wait and wait and wait. And once we have gotten so far, then they now say that they are confused. They don't know where we are. It's better you follow quickly than to wait, because once we start, you will not stop. Okay, the next thing to do is to write find your goal. Right, find your goal on cell B1 and then find your goal on cell B2. And then on cell D1, type Z. Z represents the profit of Farm Ghana Limited. Okay, under the Farm Ghana Limited, write DV. DV refers to the decision variables. DV. Below that, write coefficient, the short form for COEFF. That represents the coefficient of the decision variables. On the right-hand side here, you see that they are the 40 and 50. Then the next thing to write is the word constraints. Constraints. Now I want you to move to column D that matches constraints. Column D that matches constraints. And then write usage. On the right of that, write sign. On the right of that, write available. you are writing everything, be watching my screen so you know what you're doing. Okay. The next thing now to do is that when you are solving a linear program, you don't know the values of the decision there. So the values for find Yogo and find Choco, we don't know them. So for now, I'm just going to assume that their values are not known. I can leave it open. But in order to see that they are not known, we can now put their values as 0. So under find Yogo, write 0, under find Choco, write 0. Then under the coefficient for find Yogo, if you look on the right here, you see that it is 40. So write 40. And under the find Choco, you know the coefficient is 50, so write 50. And then move to the Z column. So the section for the Z, which matches the coefficient, you can highlight it yellow like I've done. And that is going to be a formula we're about to write. But before we write that formula, under the constraint, label the labor constraint, call it labor. And then under that, label the milk constraint and call it milk. So now let's go back to the column Z. Under the column D, for the Z, write equal to sign. We are about to write a formula for the equation. As you can see on the right here, we see that the formula is 40 multiplied by the x1 plus the 50 multiplied by the x2. We're going to do the same thing here. So we have the cursor blinking here. So while the equal to sign is showing, select the 40 instead of typing it. Select this 40. Do multiplication sign on your keyboard and select the x1. Right now, x1, we don't know the values, is 0. So select this 0 and you see B2. Now, this is where you got to be careful. After the B2, we want to dollarize it. And to do that, you press F4 key. F4. Once you press F4 key like this, there will be a dollar symbol before and after the B. If you can't get that, rather do FN F4. FN F4. So you press and hold the FN key and then press F4 and you will get this dollar symbol. Let me see my hands. Those of you who have been able to do that. That's critical. There are 3 critical steps that we are doing. This is the first critical. Good. So out of my people that I'm working with, I can see that quite a number of you so far are following, 14 people. Let's move on. So after the symbol, your cursor should still be there. After the $B, $2, the cursor should still be blinking, and then you press the plus sign. Press the plus. And now we are going to do the same thing for find Choco. Select the 50 for find Choco, press the times, and select the 0 on top of the 50, and press the F4 key, or the FN F4. You're done. Once you're done with this, click enter. Everything will be 0, which is normal because we have not found any value yet. The objective function has just been written, and it is represented by this D. Now let's go to the constraint. This section I'm highlighting represents the constraints. As you probably will know, the constraints actually indicates the values or the coefficients attached to the constraint. Now, when you look on the right side here, the first constraint, which is labor, what number is in front of the X1?
1.
1. And that 1 is under the fan you go. So you type 1. The next one is 2. Okay, for fan trickle. And then when you go to the milk, the first one is 4. And the next one is 3. That's nice. Now go to the available and then type the actual available value. What is available labor?
40.
So you type 40. Below that, what is available milk?
120.
You type that as well. Then you go to sign. Sign. Under the sign, select on your keyboard the less than sign. You may have to hold a shift key. Less than sign and add the equal to. And below that, you do the same thing, less than sign, add the equal to. Or you can drag the one from the top to the one down. We are left with only one thing, and that one thing is under the usage. That's all we are left with, and the formulation is done. How do you put the values here? Just copy what is under the Z, because it picks the same coefficients as well as it follows the same format. So pick it because it's a formula. Pick it, copy, click on this 0 here, copy, and then come and paste it under the usage and paste it again under the next one. Or you can paste it under one and drag it to the other. Formulation is done. We're about to solve it. If you have a question, ask. To solve it, on the top left, you should see File. Oh, by the way, before we do that, on the top of your Excel, you should see the Data tab. The Data tab. You see it somewhere here, Data tab. Click on the Data tab, and then on the far right of your screen, far right, you will see something known as Data Analysis and Solver. If you don't see Solver, raise your hand. You see Data Analysis and Solver. If you don't see Solver, raise your hand. Okay, so for those of you who don't see Solver, follow me. I'll show you how to see Solver in the next 3 minutes. On the top left, click on File. Select Options or Excel Options. Select Options or Excel Options. Last but one, on the far left, select Add-ins. Add-ins. And then, after selecting Add-ins, you should see something under Add-ins known as Solver Add-in. Solver Add-in. Click on that and come down on your screen and select Go. So click on Solver Add-in and select Go. When you select go, a pop-up will show. This is known as the solver parameter dialog box. You see solver is in one of them. There's a box on the left of solver. Check that box and click OK. Check that box and click OK. And this time you should see solver there. For those of you who follow this and solve the solver there, raise your hand. If you went through that process and you happen to now see the solver, let me know. Okay, good. So that means that you are all good to go. So at this stage, let's lower our hands and now go to solver on the far right. To see solver, you should click on the beta tab at the top. And on the far right, you should see solver now. Click on solver, everybody. When you click on solver, a pop-up will show. And this pop-up is known as a solver parameter dialog box. This pop-up will show, as you can see mine on the screen, it is known as a solver parameter dialog box. The first thing you see there is the set objective. The set objective is actually your z-value. And when you look on the Excel, your z-value is actually the one in the formula here. The one that has been formulated to be 0. But it's actually a beautiful formula there. That is a cell you are going to collect and put it into your set objective. So in your set objective, there should be a cell called D3. D3.
So please, do we go to the Excel back and go and copy the B3?
To do what?
I'm asking if we go back to go and copy the B3 or we should type B3.
Don't copy. Have you opened the solver parameter dialog box?
Yeah, I have.
Yes, just go to your Excel behind it and select that cell D3. Select, you're not copying, you're selecting. Just clicking on it, and then it shows in the set objective. I just hope that you have the formula there.
Yeah.
Then you click the objective of maximizing or minimizing. You can see that the focus is on maximization. So you just have to ensure that that is it. And you're good to go. You move to the next cell, which is known as by changing variable cell. By changing variable cell. What is that? Excel, that is Excel's name for the decision variables. That is the name of Excel for the decision variables. So right now the decision variables are 0 and 0, as you can see on the left here. So that's what you're going to select. You're going to select the first one, 0 for fungible, and drag it to fungible, just as I'm doing. Once you do that, these cells will be collected into the by changing variable cells. The reason why they are changing is because the values are not known yet, and the values will change. Good. So now we are ready to add the constraint. So click on the white space to the left of the constraint. The white space below the constraint. Click on that white space. When you click on the white space, a diamond sort of ring will show. Then you click on add. Add. Now this add, this is where you will have the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Just so you know, the left-hand side is a usage and the right-hand side is available. So under the cell reference, pick on the values under the usage, all of them. Click on the first one and drag it to the next one. The symbol is already less than or equal to, so you don't need to change it. And then under the constraint, click on the first one, which is the 40. Drag it to the 120. When you are done, you are good to go. So you click OK.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, I've gotten to the cell reference. I've clicked on the usage and dragged it.
Yes, after you're using and drag, you should select the less than or equal to symbol, which is already selected. Then you should click on the white space under the constraints.
Okay.
Then select the 40 and 120 into that space and click OK. It will bring you back to the solver parameter dialog box. Now you have one more thing to do. You see that check under the white space is called meet unconstrained variables non-negative. So what is that? That is a non-negativity constraint. So what you will do is that you will select a solving method. The solving method is not the usual one you know. It is the simplex algorithm. So select the simplex LP. And that's it. Once you've done that, click solve. A solution will come. You see mine, it says error. Okay, so when you get error, please verify that all cells and constraints are valid. So you can choose return to solver parameter dialog box. So let's go back there. You can see that I have my D3, double check it. The by changing cell is B1 to B2. The B1 to C2. And then the subject to constraint. The subject to constraint, you can change it by clicking on it and choosing change. So it has popped up. Okay, hold on. But sometimes some of this thing that you wrote to me, let me double click this. It's collecting the right information perfectly. So I click on solver again. And then, yes, Benjamin.
So when you clicked on the usage, it references you to B1 and B5 and C5. Because you asked us to copy, mine references me back to B2 and C2.
So what have you tried to solve?
So
let's see. Click on this, go to the right-hand side, click on that. Some cells are not variable cells.
Say check the when you are dragging the decision variable. I think you added the find choco and the find you go. So check that one and see.
Once you guys get sorted, me, that's my happiness. Happiness is that you also. Good, many.
Yeah, so I think when you go to your solver, that's
Yeah.
where the issue is coming from, your solver.
The solver side.
Yes.
Then
Then by
Changing the
variable,
variable cell.
yeah, please select just you selected the fun choco and fun choco, you didn't select yes. Yes. I think you can solve for it now.
When you actually find mistakes like this, you just have to go through it and ensure that you're on the right track. Okay. So once you've done this, great. Click on sensitivity and click on OK. A new sheet will open. Click on sensitivity and click OK. A new Excel sheet will open. And at the bottom here, click on that sensitivity report and you should have something like that. Now in an exam situation, this will be generated for you. What you see on the screen will be generated for you, but please note that you will not have just two variables like you've seen here. No, you may be different. Maybe find yoga, find dango, find nice, find so many things, multiple variables instead of just a few. Now you will get 13 questions you have to answer. And I'm going to ask you that same 13 questions here. So that you can understand them. Yes.
Please, when you get to the side where there's report answer sensitivity limits, then you click on what?
When you get to what?
So the solver found the solution side. That
When you click on sensitivity report and click OK also. The sensitivity report is on the right. You see answer report sensitivity.
Okay, yes.
Click on that, it will turn blue, click OK.
I'm still getting the pop-up.
What pop-up?
Solver parameters. Then I should click on solve.
Yeah, that means you haven't even done the solve and you were asking about sensitivity report. So you should click on solve first before you go to the one I told you. Okay. So let's go to the first question you can get.
Hello, Doc.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I'm sorry for drawing the class back. Could we look at the constraints, setting the constraints in solver again?
That's what?
The constraints in solver.
Yes,
you
want to see it?
Yes, please.
So when you want to do the constraints, click on solver here. The constraint is this. You normally click on add, okay? Like I have clicked. Normally click on add, but I have done it already, so I'm clicking on change. And then on the left, you select the usage, which is the 40 and 120 on the left. And then on the right, you select it available.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah.
asking the
For
question.
the 40 and drag to the 120. Okay.
Get a 40, drag it to the 120. Okay, so now let's go to the questions. What is the first question that you should always, and I want you to write these questions because they can change, but I'm giving you all the possible changes to the question. And the question will be all based on this solution now. Anytime. This is called a sensitivity report. Question number 1, and it's always something like this. The question says that from the sensitivity report, what is the optimal solution to this Farm Milk Ghana Limited problem? Write it down. What is the optimal solution to this Farm Milk Ghana Limited problem? Who can tell us how to address this? How do you address this very question? Yes, Kofi.
I think from the sensitivity report, we can see that for them to optimize their process within their constraints, they need to produce 24 sachets of fine yogo and 8 sachets of fine choco.
Yeah, that's correct. So this question is actually asking, if another way of asking the question is like saying that how many sachets of fine yogo and choco should Farm Milk Ghana Limited produce? Another way of saying it is, what is the optimal solution to the Farm Milk Ghana Limited problem? And that is what Kofi has indicated. They're actually asking you, so you will say that the optimal solution is to produce 24 sachets of yogurt and 8 sachets of chocolate. Now, you guys have done this mathematically, so you know the answer. But remember that in real life, you don't know the answer. Next question, number 2. Unless there's a question. Number 2, what is the corresponding value of the objective function? What is the corresponding value of the objective function? Another way of asking this question is saying that, what is the corresponding profit for Farm Milk Ghana Limited? What is the corresponding profit for Farm Milk Ghana Limited? How do you solve this very question? Let me just go back to the report. How do you solve it? Yes, Ben.
Okay, sir. So I think from the sensitivity output, from our variable cell, since we know our final value, which is the 24 and 8, we can put it in the Zmax function to get our profit.
What does it become? What would it be like?
So it will be so with a Zmax, we have the 40x1 plus 50x2. So since we know our 40, we know x1 is 24, we're going to do 40 into bracket 24 plus your 50 into bracket 8, which is going to give us 1,360.
Good. This is okay. This is good. But what if your model that you have formulated is wrong? So sometimes it might be nice to know how to use the Excel itself. You get a point. Using the Excel itself to help you. So how can you use the Excel itself? Not necessarily the model you have formulated. Because if the model is wrong and you are using the model, it means that your answer may be wrong. So how do you use the Excel? What are the ingredients of the Excel result you need to answer that question? You can tell us. The ingredients. You are being asked to find the z. That is a corresponding objective function. How do you do it? Take the final value of the variable cell, multiply it by the objective coefficient, plus the next final value. Okay? Multiply that one too by the objective coefficient, plus the next final value, like that. And then keep going until you have handled all of the final value. So you are picking each final value, multiply by the objective coefficient, plus the next final value, multiply by the next objective coefficient. That will always give you the solution. Please, are you following? The next question. Next question. It says that what is the reduced cost value? Write it down. Write these questions down. I don't know how many times I will tell people that you should always write these things down. What is the reduced cost value? The reduced cost value is opportunity cost of producing the decision variable. So note it and write it down well. It's opportunity cost of producing the decision variable. So what is opportunity cost? The opportunity cost is the next best alternative for one. Can one of you tell me the opportunity cost of this course you are reading and studying right now? What is the opportunity cost of right now studying management science? Michael.
Going for a wedding lunch.
Very good. What else? What is opportunity cost of being here? Somebody gave me some strange answers earlier on. Yes, Elizabeth.
Resting.
I didn't hear what you said. So the opportunity cost of producing, say every reduced cost value has opportunity cost. Every final value has an opportunity cost, like you can see here. The Fanyego has an opportunity cost, the Choco has an opportunity cost, or the reduced cost, as well as they having the coefficient. So the opportunity cost here can be positive, 0, or negative. In our case here is 0. It is positive when we are dealing with minimization. Take note. It's negative when we are dealing with maximization. So take note of that. Now let's continue. What is the opportunity cost? What is the reduced cost value? So in practical terms, the reduced cost value is telling you what you lose if you go ahead to produce the decision variable. Write it down, you forget. It tells you what you lose if you go ahead and produce the decision variable. Now, right now as it stands, what do we lose when we go ahead and produce Fanyego? You can tell us. What do we lose if we go ahead and produce Fanyego? I don't know. This class, people are not as contributory as the previous one. Because people can talk in the other one. Yes, Aninga. Emanuela. What did she say? Yes, Emmanuel.
Simply as you lose nothing.
How do you see that? What value gave you the answer?
A reduced cost value. the reduced cost value.
What is that? What is that value?
0.
Yeah, but you could have said the reduced cost value of 0. You want me to ask you what that states before you say it? Okay. So now, if the final value has a 0 value, right now, they don't have a 0 value, they have a non-zero value. But if the final value has a 0 value, the opportunity cost or the reduced cost value will be a negative number for maximization like we have here. It will be a negative number. Now, in order to prove this with you, let's try something here. Let's go to our Excel thing. And in this Excel, I'm going to maintain the 0 value for the thing. And then I'm going to increase this value, the fan choco, to 90. Just to make a point. Okay. I'm going to increase the fan choco to 90. And then I'm going to run the whole model again. So watch what happens. I'm going to solve, and I'll create another sensitivity report. And it's going to be sensitivity report 2. I want you to check the sensitivity report 2 that I have. So you can see that with this sensitivity report 2, what are we doing with FindUgo? With this sensitivity report 2, what are we doing with FindUgo? Michael?
It says don't produce FindUgo.
Good. So if you go ahead and proceed, what will happen? Raise your hand. Yes, Yasin.
It means you have to reduce production of fan choco by 5.
You have to what?
Reduce production of fan choco by 5.
No, not at all. If you go ahead and produce it, even though it says don't produce it, what happens, Larisha?
It means you incur a cost of 5 CDs.
That's it. You incur a cost of 5 Cs. That's what it means. That's why he says you should not produce it. So reduced cost actually tells you if you go ahead and force yourself to produce what you are not supposed to produce. Reduced cost value tells you. So take note and understand this because you get a lot of questions on this. Okay. So,
Prof, please, I have a question before you move on.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the reduced cost side, that's where we see the opportunity cost. And you said if it's negative, it's maximization, and if it's positive, it's minimization.
Yeah, it's maximization.
So the answer, when the second sensitivity report, it was -2. And she mentioned that it means if you go ahead to produce, you incur a cost of -5. So I want to know how that is related. Because you said if it's rather negative, it's maximization. But
No, I said that if it is negative, the negative appears when you are doing a maximization problem. No Farmer Ghana Limited, we were maximizing profit.
Yes.
That's what I mean by it is a maximization problem.
Okay.
So when you are formulating a maximization problem and there is a reduced cost, it will be a negative value. But when you are doing a minimization problem and there is a reduced cost, it is a positive value there.
Okay. Yeah. But it doesn't affect how you interpret that column, right?
When you say how you interpret that column, again, it depends on what you mean by how you interpret that column.
So, for instance, her answer was that if you go ahead to produce FindUgo when the model says don't produce, you incur cost of 5.
That's not what she said. The one I said wrong. This one you just said, I said it's right. You incur a cost of 5. Yes. That's what it means. As it stands now, you are not supposed to produce FindUgo. But if you still insist that, look, I need Fan Yogo to go into my business, without Fan Yogo, people don't like Fan Choco like that, and you still force and do it, you incur that cost. Okay. That's
So
what's
now,
going to affect your profit margin.
okay. So now my question is the negative, because of what you mentioned earlier, that if it's a maximization problem to be negative, so does that mean that all the things here are actually negative, but depending on whether you are solving for a minimization or maximization, that will affect the sign of the number?
You say all the time they are always what?
So I'm saying that the figures under reduced cost, it is like the opportunity cost. But you mentioned that if it's a minimization problem, the values will be positive and then negative for a maximization problem. So I'm asking that, is the -5 negative because what we are solving for is a maximization
Yes.
problem? Or
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
thank
If
you.
it is a minimization problem we are solving, there will be a +5 and not negative.
So now if it was a +5, would you still interpret it as
No, you will never interpret it like that.
okay?
You will not interpret it like that. Because, first of all, we got to know, first of all, what are we minimizing? We can be minimizing time. We can be minimizing distance. And we can be minimizing cost. We can be minimizing disease. So we got to know what we are minimizing before we can interpret it well.
Okay. Thank you.
So now we go to the next question, which is, why does the reduced cost column contain zeros? And I've already addressed this, but let's go. So when you come to the sensitivity report 1 here, you can see that the reduced cost values contain zeros. And the question is, why do they have zeros? Who can tell us? We've said a lot about reduced cost, so this one you should know. Why does a reduced cost column contain zeros? Yes, yes.
So it will be 0 when you are producing at the optimal solution. That's it.
0 when you're producing at the optimal solution. Oh, exactly. It's about why. Why is it 0? Why did it contain zeros there?
Because by following the optimal solution, you wouldn't have let go of any better alternative.
Why are you using the word optimal solution? Optimal solution. Why are you making it mathematical?
Okay, so by following what the model says you should produce, you wouldn't have let go of any better alternative.
Okay. Yes, Kofi.
I think it's because of the non-negativity constraint.
No, not because of the non-negativity constraint. Diane.
Is it because they are producible?
Yes, because you are producing. That's it. I hope you didn't pick it from anywhere, but you are thought deeply about it before giving me the answer. It's because they are producing. That's why the reduced cost column is 0. It's because this company happened to produce something. That is why the reduced cost column is 0. If Farmer Ghana Limited had not produced something for each product, the reduced cost column will not be 0. And when I showed you the example here, you saw it, that this is an example where Farmer Ghana Limited is not producing one of their products. And that is why the reduced cost column is not 0 in that context. So the reduced cost column only is 0 when production has been made. Write it down. If you don't write these things down, you keep watching me and waiting for recording and those things. These are the key deep things. Okay, let's move on to the next. Which constraints are binding? When is a constraint set to be binding? There are 3 things that make a constraint set to be binding. 1. Yes, he asked me.
A constraint is said to be binding when the left-hand side equals the right-hand side, meaning what they use is actually equal to what was available.
Good, that's 1. You have another one?
I was going to explain the non-binding constraint.
Let's hold on to that one. I want another reason why or what makes a constraint binding, apart from the left and right hand side being equal. Okay. Another reason, another way to indicate that constraint is binding is when there are no slacks. Write it down. When the slacks are 0, the constraint is said to be binding. That's another one. Number 3, the constraint is also said to be binding when the shadow price is positive, or better still, when the shadow price is non-negative. When the shadow price is non-negative, or let me put it this way. No, when the shadow price is positive, not non-negative, but when the shadow price is positive. So take note of these 3. Now, let's go to the real stuff. Which constraints are binding? Looking at the storyline, which constraints are binding? Who can tell me which constraints are binding here? Because it's only Clue and Yasmin. They are the only ones talking today. The rest are just watching, sir. Yes, Fatima. Adam. Okay, let's go to Kofi.
The labor hours used is binding.
Okay, why?
Because if you look at the sensitivity report, the final value, the shadow price is first of all positive, based on what you just said.
Good. The shadow price is positive. What else? Which other constraint is binding? Yasmin.
The milk usage is also binding.
Why?
And the reason is that, first of all, the shadow price is positive 6. And then under the constraints table, we are seeing the final value where milk is 120, and constraint on right hand side is also 120, which goes to the second reason as to why something can be binding.
Good. Now let's go to the shadow price. The shadow price is also called the dual value. The dual value. The dual value. The shadow price tells you by how much the Z value will change if there is a change in the right-hand side of the constraint. Write it down. The shadow price tells you by how much the Z value changes if there is a change in the right-hand side of the constraint. Okay, so what then is this shadow price? Now look at the right-hand side of the constraint. One of them is 40 for labor and 120 for gallons of. 40 is the hours allocated to everybody a week. But some people can work overtime, and so the hours of labor can increase to 41, to 42, or any number. If there is a situation where you increase the right-hand side of this constraint, whatever happens to profit is determined by the shadow price. If the shadow price is 0, it means whatever happens to profit is going to be Zero. In other words, profit will not increase. But if the shadow price is positive, it means profit will rise by that value. So that is what we mean by the shadow price. The shadow price is an intoxicating information. That is, there are several questions I asked about it. It's sometimes called a marginal contribution towards the profit, or the marginal contribution towards the objective function. Let me ask you a certain question. Suppose you have, let me see. Remember, if we are dealing with costs, the shadow price, if the shadow price is positive, it means that if it is cost, it means cost will reduce. Okay, cost will reduce. So take note. Let me ask you a certain question, and please know that the shadow price can be positive or negative or zero. If it is zero, of course, it means that the constraints are not binding. That's what it means. If it is zero, it means the constraints are not binding, or that particular constraint is not binding. Okay? It means that something is bigger. The right-hand side or the left-hand side, one of them is bigger. So let's go to the question here. If management could increase extra resources, which one would be of most value to them and why? Look at it. If management could increase, or could obtain additional resources, which one is useful or most value to them and why? Yasin?
It's labor. The reason being that the shadow price under labor is, I think, 14. No, that's milk. No, labor. Labor is 16, and then milk is 6. And you already mentioned that if the shadow price is positive, it means that profit will increase by that number. So, assuming they increase the hours of labor, it means that profit will increase by 16, which is greater than the milk shadow price of 6.
Excellent. Who is a class rep? Who is a class rep here? Michael, you don't have a class rep in this class.
Yes, we have. It's supposed to be one Samuel.
Okay, Samuel, and I'm his assistant.
Who is assistant?
Emmanuel Laban.
Emmanuel Laban, you don't talk in my class. Why? I will demote you.
Dog, even today I've spoken.
Jai, you spoke in a class. You're supposed to be talking a lot.
Okay, dog, noted.
I want you to document this information for me. 5 marks for Yasin, 5 marks for Clue, Kofi Clue. The two of them, I want to give them 5 marks. This is not what is supposed to motivate everybody to start talking.
Doc, today I've been talking. Michael has been talking. You forgot me.
I have not. You see, if you have been talking, you shouldn't even be the one to talk and say that. As if now you want to be rewarded for talking. I am rewarding for a reason, not to motivate you to come and talk for reward's sake. You are not driven by external factor. You are driven by internal will. Okay, let's move on. So yes, that's correct. Yasmin, you have to focus on labor because even if you increase the hours by 1 unit and increase the milk by 1 unit, the hours will give you more money than the milk will give you more money. So that's why labor is the most critical resource. Now, let's address this question. Oh, but then there's something you should take note here. Okay. The fact that labor is the most critical resource doesn't mean that because of that you should go and increase labor like that. Because if you increase labor by 1 unit, you will move from 40 to 41. By 10 units, you will move to 50. By 20 units, it will go to 60. But there's a limit to which labor must go. What is a maximum you can increase labor? What is a maximum by which you can increase the labor point? Michael?
40.
That's the maximum, exactly. Okay. And this is called the upper bound of the sensitivity range. Take note. It's called the upper bound of the sensitivity range. Now, let's look at some questions related to shadow price. This is a question. What if management can increase profit by raising labor by 20 or by raising milk by 40 gallons? Which should they choose? And of course, why? Don't talk after, but talk after you have calculated. Which should they choose and why? To do that, let me see. Let's have done practical calculation. Matthew.
Okay, thank you, Doc. So considering
Matthew, you are far away.
Okay, Doc, sorry. I was saying, considering the shadow price for labor being 16 and milk being 6, if you increase labor by 20 hours, you would have a price increase of about 320. And for labor, sorry, and for milk, if you increase it by 40 hours, sorry, by 40 gallons, you would receive 240 units in price increase. Thus, the more viable solution is to go with labor, even though you are just increasing it by 20 hours.
Good. That's it. That's a nice smart. So labor is a go-to-go. But of course, you can't increase labor beyond 80 hours. That's a key point to note. So labor is good. You can't go beyond. Okay, Matthew.
Oh, sorry, I meant to lower my hand.
So we are now ready to calculate something known as the sensitivity range. We are going to calculate the sensitivity range for everything called an objective function or right-hand side constraint. That is where we calculate the sensitivity range for. So I want you to know the definition of the sensitivity range. Okay. It has a lower bound like this, and then the sensitivity range for that particular item, if it is fine, you go is Y. It's Y for fine. And then it has an upper bound value. Now, the lower bound is actually the variable, okay, minus the allowable decrease. That's the lower bound. Okay. And then the upper bound is the same coefficient plus the allowable increase. So I want you to calculate the sensitivity range for fine you go for me. One of you should do that in a minute. What is the sensitivity range for Lego? Sensitivity range for farm Lego. The sensitivity range is supposed to be the objective function minus the allowable decrease on the left side. Then the same objective function plus the allowable increase on the right side. Yes, yes.
So it's 25 to 30.
I want the lower bound and the upper bound.
So the lower bound is 25.
The upper bound?
The upper bound is 13.33.
No. The upper bound is not correct. Come back again.
Okay.
The upper bound is calculated as the objective coefficient plus the allowable increase. Yes. Monday.
Sir, please, the lower bound will be the objective coefficient, which is 40 minus the allowable decrease 15, which is 25. And then the upper bound is the objective coefficient, which is 40 minus the allowable increase 26.67, which is approximately, plus the allowable increase, which is about 66.7.
Good. So what you said all is what is here. That is a sensitivity range. What does this mean? The sensitivity range for this example means that, and remember, this is for the variable cells. What this means is that as long as you are producing fan yogo and the quantity or the sachets of fan yogo is between 25 and 67, as long as this is dancing between this range, sorry, it's not the fan, is a coefficient, the coefficient of fan yogo. Remember, the coefficient of fan yogo is 40. Okay, so as long as that 40 is dancing between 25 and 67, the optimal solution will not change. That's a key thing. That's a key thing. The optimal solution won't change. By the optimal solution, I'm talking about the decision variables you found. They will not change as long as this is dancing between it. But the moment it goes above the upper bound or below the lower bound, then the optimal solution change. So you should learn and understand. But even though the optimal solution will not change, the profit will change. The Z value will change. Why? Because that one, a slight change will change it. Take note. Now let's go and calculate the sensitivity range for labor. Who can tell us the sensitivity range for labor? We just did for farm labor. Then,
so we have 30 for the lower band and 80 for the upper band.
Excellent. Now, the way you interpret the sensitivity range for the objective coefficient, that's not the same for the right-hand side or the constraint. What their value, that 30 and 80, what do they mean? Now, for them, it means that even if the labor is dancing between 30 and 80, one, the optimal solution will change. Two, the objective function value will also change. Any question on that? So that one, slight change will change it. And that's because of the way the shadow price is working. Okay, so understand some of these things a lot and learn how to calculate the sensitivity range all the time. Next thing is some few questions for you to tell me your thoughts about it. As long as any change in the constraint is within the sensitivity range, what happens? You can tell us. What happens? If you have been following, you should be able to understand this. As long as any change in the constraint is within the sensitivity range, what happens? It's within the sensitivity range. What will happen at that point? Then,
I think FanMock will still make profit.
now, I didn't tell you what the change is. I didn't say there was an increase or there was a decrease. So profits, the direction of profits is not known. Now what will happen? Well, what's going to happen is that the optimal solution will change and then the profit will change. That's the key. The word is change, not rise or fall. Change. Okay. Next one. Are there any wastages in this Farmer Ghana Limited? So we've looked at this whole data for the past 3 years, three meetings. Are there any wastages in this Farmer Ghana Limited? Any wastages at all? You can tell us. Are there any wastages? Kofi?
I don't think there are any wastages if they are sticking to the optimal function.
Yeah, you are speaking from feeling. We are not talking about feeling. Give me specific reason throughout this whole thing. Are there wastages?
Specifically, there are no wastages because they are producing 24 sachets of Fan Yogo and 8 sachets of Fan Choco at a opportunity cost or reduced cost of 0.
Good. But there's another reason why. Matthew.
Look, I would say there are no wastages because the formula is binding.
What formula? Maza.
Sorry,
You can use sometimes though, the formula. Okay, let's go to other. Isaac.
So there's no wastage because they are working within the sensitivity limits.
Yeah, but why are there not any wastages? I hear Videke.
Because resources are using sufficiently.
Yes, Doc. I would say there is no wastages because their reduced cost is 0.
How do you know that?
It's because of the calculation, the sensitivity report.
Okay. There are some other easier things to use to justify why there are no wastages, other than all you guys are giving. Michael.
Because what is used is what is available. They are using what is available. They are not using more than that or less than that.
That is what? That is called what?
That's constraints. It means the constraints are binding.
Yes. Which also means what? Don't worry. Which also means what, Michael?
I'm going through my notes.
Say optimal.
Optimal.
Yeah.
Optimal, yeah.
There's nothing optimal.
Efficiency.
Yes, efficiency. Okay, but we also said something. Yes.
That the slacks are 0, or the right hand side is equal to the left hand side.
That is the key. You can be efficient and still have slacks. So it's because the slacks are 0. Okay. Are there any milk leftovers? It's a very funny question. Are there any milk leftovers in this story? This one you don't need to answer. Yeah, Emmanuel.
No, there are no leftovers.
What is the most critical resource for raising profit? Emmanuel. Yima.
Hello, Doc.
Go ahead.
It's labor.
Okay. Now, if the manager of Farmer Ghana Limited can secure more labor at $16 per hour, how much more can be obtained before the optimal solution mix will change and the current shadow price is no longer valid? How much more can be obtained? Who can address this? How much more can you obtain? Kofi?
40, because that's the allowable increase, and that's the upper threshold. So once that is hit, then after that, everything with our mix will have to change.
Excellent. Beautiful. So it is 30. Guys, if you don't understand, he understands. And that 40 is added to the existing 40 to get to 80, which becomes the upper bound of the sensitivity range. So it's a very important one. Now, finally, let's assume Fan Yogo was rather 0 instead of the 24, with a reduced cost of -5 and a per unit profit of 40. And Choco was 20 instead of 8, with a reduced cost of 0 per unit profit of 90. By how much would the profit contribution of Fan Yogo has to increase before it will be profitable to produce it? This question, we addressed it in part. Let me see who will crack it. We've addressed it in part, and so I need to know who will. Well, this we have already discussed, because if Fan Yogo was 0, then that is why it has a negative. Now, if it is 0, it means that you are not supposed to produce it. Okay, so the manager now decides not to produce it. Then somebody comes to the manager that I want you to produce it. And the manager said, no, I can't produce it because the per unit profit I will get is 40. The only time I will produce this thing is if the per unit profit should go up. The question is asking you, by how much would that per unit profit have to go up for this guy now to be willing to produce it? By how much? Remember, the profit is what? Right now is 40. By how much should it go up for it to be producible? Do you not get the clarity of the question? Because when there's clarity, there's focus. Now I've clarified it. So who will focus? And tell me. By how much? Yes, Yasin.
Say, please, is it 8? Like profit will have to increase by 8 before he will produce it.
Increase by what?
8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's not 8. Emmanuel.
Is it 5?
Yes, it is 5. Why?
Because the cost is,
opportunity cost of not producing it.
yes, it was -5.
5 was the opportunity cost of not producing it. So if I can make it producible, I just have to now increase it by 5, which means I'm moving it from what to what? You can tell us. I am moving the objective coefficient from what value to what value? Mandy.
From a negative value to 0.
No, I'm talking about the objective coefficient. The objective coefficient. I am now moving it from what value to what value because it's in the question. Michael.
Yeah. From 40 to 45.
That's it. From 40 to 45. That is, see, this thing is not difficult if a person started paying attention from the very beginning. But if the person said, oh, I'm doing something, not fully immersed in what we are doing, these deeper questions, the person will not really be able to capture all of it. Some of it, but not all of it. Go through it again, master it again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the answer, by the way. And by the way, take note that 45 will also be the upper bound of the sensitivity range. Take note of this. The minimum contribution that has to be made for a product to be producible is also the upper bound of the sensitivity range. Keep that in mind.
Please repeat it again.
The minimum contribution of a variable that is not yet being produced, the minimum contribution, profit contribution, that is required for that non-producible product to be produced is the upper bound of the sensitivity range. In other words, the price needed or the objective coefficient needed to produce it is the upper bound of the sensitivity range. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the entire caboodle. I'll be giving you your assignment. I'll be giving you your assignment, and you're supposed to put yourself in groups of 5 to 10 and do that assignment. It is, I think, 5 different assignments you're supposed to do as a group and submit that assignment. So once I upload it, you see it, and your job is to address it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of everything. Any question? So at this stage, I'm going to give some 3 marks to the following people. 3 marks to Michael. 3 marks to, who are the people? I'm giving some marks to some 4 people. I've forgotten their names. If you have commented.
Ben.
I'll select.
Ben.
I know the people. You don't need to talk.
Ben, whatever.
Master Jarvis, hey, raise your hand. I didn't even talk. I said, just raise your hand if you know your part.